The morning air was sharp with cold, the kind that crawls through thin clothing and settles deep in the bones. On a rusted bench beneath a flickering street lamp sat an 87-year-old homeless grandma, her back curved like a forgotten branch. The city around her was waking slowly, vendors setting up carts, jeepneys rumbling past, people hurrying with hot coffee in their hands. But no one looked in her direction. She had become part of the background, like the peeling posters behind her. Her blanket, once white, was now a patchwork of stains and tiny holes. She pulled it tighter around her frail shoulders, trying in vain to stop the trembling. She hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. Hunger and cold were a pair she had grown used to, though today they seemed crueler. As she stared at her wrinkled hands, a soft tapping of small footsteps approached. She didn't look up at first, she assumed it was just another passerby. But the footsteps stopped right in front of her. Slowly, she lifted her head. A tiny 4-year-old stood there, clutching a half-eaten biscuit in one hand and a small toy in the other. His hair was messy, his clothes a little oversized, and his innocent eyes were filled with curiosity, not fear, not disgust, just pure curiosity. He tilted his head and asked in the gentlest voice, "Lola, you hungry?" The question stunned her. Her lips parted but no words came out. No one had spoken to her like that in years. The child extended the biscuit with both hands, as if offering treasure. Grandma's eyes filled with tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed. She nodded slowly, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Thank you, Anik." The little boy's small hand wrapped around Grandma's fingers with surprising warmth. She hesitated at first, unsure if she should follow, unsure if she deserved to follow, but the boy tugged gently, guiding her with childlike certainty. His trust was something she hadn't felt in decades. They walked slowly toward a food stall at the corner of the street. Smoke rose from a large pot of steaming soup, filling the air with the scent of ginger and chicken. A woman, the boy's mother, was busy arranging plastic cups and stirring the broth. When she saw her son pulling along an elderly stranger, her brows shot up in alarm. "Eli, Anik, what are you doing?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. The boy pointed at Grandma. "Mama. Lola hungry." The mother's gaze softened only slightly, but concern still tightened her expression. She looked at the old woman, thin, shivering, her cheeks hollowed by hunger. The mother had seen many homeless people around the area, but something about this grandma felt different. Perhaps it was the boy's hand fearlessly holding hers. Grandma opened her mouth to speak, to apologize, to say she didn't want to cause trouble, but the words trembled and died on her lips. Before she could try again, the mother sighed, lifted a bowl, and filled it with steaming soup. "Here," she said gently, handing it over. "Please sit." The warmth of the bowl seeped into Grandma's palms, almost painfully comforting. She hadn't felt heat like that in a long time. She took a careful sip. The taste, simple, salty, nourishing, brought tears to her eyes. I haven't eaten warm food in days," she whispered. The mother paused, studying her face. Behind those wrinkles was a story. A lifetime. A pain she couldn't ignore. "You can stay here for now," the mother finally said. "At least until the cold passes." The boy grinned wide and sat beside Grandma, his small shoulder gently touching her arm. The next morning, sunlight crawled slowly across the pavement near the food stall, warming the air just enough to soften the chill. Grandma sat on a low wooden stool the mother had given her the night before. She held it gently, almost protectively, as if afraid it might be taken back. She didn't expect the boy to return. Children forget easily, she thought. They move on quickly. But she was wrong. Little Eli came running toward her, his tiny slippers slapping the ground, a crumpled cardboard sheet under one arm and a handful of crayons under the other. "Lola! I bring drawing," he shouted proudly, as though carrying treasures worth a fortune. Grandma's heart fluttered. For me," she asked softly. "For us." Eli corrected, plopping himself on the ground and opening his crayons like a professional artist. He pushed the cardboard toward her. "Sit, Lola. We draw." Grandma lowered herself beside him. Her joints complained, but her heart felt strangely light. She watched as the child scribbled bright colors across the cardboard, crooked houses, smiling suns, stick figures holding hands. His drawings were messy but full of life. He handed her a blue crayon. "Your turn." Her fingers trembled. It had been so long since she held anything meant for play. She pressed the crayon to the cardboard and drew a small nipa hut, the kind she grew up in. Eli stared, mesmerized. "What's that, Lola?" "That was my home," she whispered. So she told him stories of rice fields that shimmered in the sun, of radio songs that drifted through open windows, of dances during fiestas, of children running barefoot through mud after the rain. Eli listened with his mouth slightly open, absorbing every word. People passing by glanced at them, confused or curious, but the two were in their own little world. When Eli leaned against her arm, resting his head for just a moment, Grandma closed her eyes. The sky darkened earlier than usual, thick clouds rolling in as the first drops of rain smudged the dusty streets. Vendors rushed to cover their carts, people scattered for shelters, and the world grew restless under the rumbling heavens. Grandma sat curled beneath a thin plastic sheet someone had discarded days ago. It wasn't enough. Cold wind pierced through every gap, and her cough, once a light, dusty sound, now echoed deep inside her weak chest. Each breath rattled, scraping painfully at her ribs. Where was Eli? She wondered. He always came running in the late afternoon. But the rain was growing heavier, and no little footsteps came. Lightning flashed. Thunder cracked. Grandma's body shook uncontrollably. She tried to hold the plastic tighter, but her hands had lost their strength. Then Lola. Eli's tiny voice cut through the storm. He came sprinting across the sidewalk, soaked from head to toe, his small arms clutching an umbrella far too big for him. Behind him, his mother hurried with a worried expression. Eli dropped to his knees beside Grandma. "Lola, you sick?" His voice trembled with fear. Grandma tried to smile, but the cough took over, racking her frail frame. Eli's mother crouched down, placing her palm on Grandma's forehead, hot, burning, dangerous. "Oh no, she has a fever," the mother whispered. She looked around, unsure, conflicted. Bringing home a stranger was risky, her landlord was strict, space was tight, money even tighter. But leaving the old woman here in the storm? That would be a slow death. The mother made her decision. "Come with us," she said firmly. "You're not staying out here tonight." She supported Grandma to her feet while Eli held her hand tightly. Step by step, they guided her through the rain, shielding her fragile body as best they could. When they reached their small home, the mother laid Grandma on the thin mattress in the corner, covering her with warm blankets. Eli sat beside her, refusing to leave. As Grandma Dr. Morning sunlight filtered softly through the thin curtains of the small room. The rain had passed, leaving the world washed clean and quiet. Grandma slowly opened her eyes. The fever that had burned through her body the night before had eased, leaving her tired but alive, gratefully, surprisingly alive. Her gaze shifted, and she froze. Eli was curled beside her on the mattress, his tiny arm draped gently across her frail one. His breathing was soft, peaceful, completely unaware of how tightly he had held onto her all night. On a nearby chair sat the mother, half asleep yet watchful, a cup of ginger tea cooling beside her. Grandma blinked, tears forming instantly. Why help someone like me?" she whispered, her voice cracking with emotion. The mother stirred awake and leaned forward. "Because no one deserves to face the world alone," she answered quietly. "And my son," she glanced at Eli, smiling softly, "my son chose you." Grandma brought a trembling hand to her mouth to stifle a sob. No one had chosen her for anything in years. The mother continued, "Stay with us for now. Until you're strong again." Her tone was gentle but sincere, not pity, but warmth. Eli's eyes fluttered open. When he saw Grandma awake, he lit up with joy. "Lola! You okay now?" he asked, throwing his arms around her. Grandma hugged him back, her frail arms surprisingly steady. "Because of you, Anik, yes." Over the next days, Grandma helped fold clothes, told stories, and laughed softly at the little boy's silly games. She moved slowly, but with a sense of belonging she thought she had lost forever. And each evening, when they sat together for dinner, 3 plates, 3 voices, 3 hearts, Grandma realized something. Home wasn't always a house. Sometimes, it was a family that found you when you needed it most.